Hey, aloha guys. Got a new video for you guys. This is going to be about the Silverback tension activated release. I did one video earlier about this and I'll put a link in the description to that. Definitely take a look at that one if you want to see kind of the overview about this tension release. And then also, the creator of the release, John Dudley, Knock On TV. Definitely check out his content before looking at any of mine. But if you look at that first video, I said, maybe a different take, somebody else's take might help somebody else understand something a different way and trying to learn a back tension shot or something like that. And after making that first video, I got a few questions about going a little more in depth into things for beginners. So in this video, I want to talk about 6 mistakes that I see beginners make with this release. I've been watching some of my friends and teaching some of my friends how to use something like this. And there's just some pretty common mistakes that I think all beginners make. And if I can go a little bit more in depth into that, maybe I can partner with you guys and help you guys progress along better with this release. So let's get into that. I had to write them down because I'm not the best of remember everything, but here it goes. Number 1 is mistakes would be expecting quick results, or the yo-yo approach. I'll talk about that. The second one is setting the release too tight. Third one is trying to time the release. Fourth one is poor maintenance. Fifth one is firing with hand pressure. And the sixth one is not turning muscles off. So I'm going to go one by one into each of them, and stay tuned. So the first one, expecting quick results, or the yo-yo approach. Basically a yo-yo going up and down. And what I mean by that is, I did this, I'm guilty of it, is you pick up this, new release or any release in general. Maybe you're going from a index finger release to a handheld or something like that, just because you saw pros or somebody else do it and thought it might help you do something or this and that. And I think one of the biggest mistakes beginners make, and this is more mindset than anything, is expecting quick results. Everything that's worth it is going to take time, is going to take energy, is going to take some commitment on your part. To really master it, and it's no different with this tension release. So what I mean by that is, they'll pick it up, start set it and shoot it a bit, and really expect to be accurate with it off the top. And if they don't get accurate with it in a short amount of time, now that's all subjective what a short amount of time is, but if they don't get accurate with it, they throw it on the side or say it's junk or sell it to somebody else or whatever, and never really fix the real problem. So if you're picking one of these up, one of the real, I guess you have to admit to yourself, is what is your problem. And if your problem is, you smash on the trigger when it's time to shoot, or you lose tension, like you kind of just sit in the valley, you get lazy on shooting. It's very hard, even when you're a beginner, or maybe you're just not happy with your groups downrange, like you're just not as good as you want to be. You need to figure out what is wrong. And sometimes that can be hard to figure out, especially if there's no coach or no one to really look at you, or any high-level people or more advanced people around you. And that's really the problem where I live, on the Big Island of Hawaii here. So there's not a whole lot of resources. I had to teach myself, and then thank heavens Dudley went and put all those free videos on YouTube, and I learned a lot just from kind of monkey see, monkey do there. So without having that, this tool can help you. And I'll just add that, I'm building, I got a kind of fairly large lot. I'm building a house, hopefully in the near future. And I hope to maybe at least create, some kind of coaching, some kind of teaching or instruction to help others here just locally progress with this. Because I spent a lot of time trying to learn it, and progressed pretty good. I'm still learning, actually, over the course, but I feel like I'm in a place where I can help others and teach it as well. So yeah, getting back to it, that yo-yo thing. So you think you get it, you shoot a little bit, then you yo-yo, you go and grab your thumb button or whatever, and you expect good results. So you're gonna have to commit to it. I would say, if you're really serious, I would say, a year, maybe 2 years, just put away all your other releases and just stick with this one. Shoot it for everything. Hunting, tournaments, in the backyard, or your friends, whatever. Just put everything else away and just use this until you have the fundamentals down of a good back tension shot with no anxiety, no target panic, that dreaded word, or any of that stuff. If you can master this, You know, it works by building pressure. There's no trigger to it. So I told people to check out the first video. Definitely check that out to get the overview. But basically, I'll give a quick one here. It fires by pressure, by tension. So you have to draw the bow back, holding the safety down with my thumb. Draw the bow back. You let off the safety, and all you do is keep pulling, and it'll fire at a set weight or set pressure, tension. So tension or resistance activated release. No trigger, no nothing. You can't command the shot. You can't tell it when to go. You can't do any of that. So you have to literally build pressure and use your form to build pressure and fire the shot, which will hopefully decrease your anxiety, but also have all kinds of other byproducts. You'll have to teach yourself how to build a form that stays steady as you build pressure, and a whole bunch of other things. So it teaches so many aspects of the shot. That's why I say, you know, there's a lot of things going on. If you're a beginner with it or struggling with it, just stick with it. It's going to take a lot of time, take commitment on your part, and you know, you got to ask yourself, how proficient, how good do you want to be? You know, if you're hunting, you got kill zones, you know, like 8 inches, pretty big area. Do you need to be super accurate, target accurate? Maybe not. Maybe you're a target archer and you want to get really good or competitive. Well, then you definitely going to have to commit to all kinds of tools to make it better. But you know, the basic gist of it is that personal commitment. You got to make that promise or commitment to yourself to get it done. So the second one is setting the release too light. This might also stem from beginners wanting to be accurate with the release in the beginning. So they'll set it light so they can have little effort and time the shot. And one of my friends, he'll know who he is. I notice he'll do this. Like, he'll actually draw the bow back, everything, get all settled, and then when it's time to shoot, he'll actually try to settle the pin and then sort of yank it. Try to still want to time the shot. So you know, instead of having maybe a trigger, a button, or a index finger where he can time it and fire it, he'll go back to the old habit of wanting to do it with this. So he'll aim and then try to yank it and shoot it. And if you do that, one, you're gonna have to set it light to do that, because if it's heavy, you're gonna pull yourself all over the place, right? So it's kind of hiding or masking one of your issues. And the second thing is, well, just yanking it is not gonna work. It's not gonna hold steady and all those things. So when you set it too light, two things happen. One, people want to time it. That's one thing. You got to get away from that. And the second thing is, when it's too light, they can get afraid of the release. And this is the same thing when you're trying to learn a hinge release, or even a thumb button release, or any release for that matter. If it's very light, when you get to full draw, and in this case, if it's so light, you'd be worried about letting off the safety with confidence and building pressure to the shot, because you might be afraid, you know, you let off, it might fire, right, if it's too light. Same thing with someone with a trigger. If you had a trigger, you know, pretend this is a trigger, you come into the trigger, you're getting all nervous, like, oh my God, is it gonna fire? Is it gonna fire? That kind of thing. That's anxiety. That's target panic in its purest form, pretty much. So setting it too light is definitely not something you want to do. If I could give a recommendation for beginners, just like Dudley's recommendation, I would say set it anywhere between 3 to 5 pounds over your, you know, the holding weight, the valley weight of your bow, and definitely set it on the longer end, where you have to, you know, really work. Well, that was pretty quick, but you have to really like build, and work at it to get the shot go off. And while you're working at it, you know, you're holding form, you're staring at the pin, looking at the dot, and building. And it's gonna go maybe even past what you feel like you need. But this is the training method for you to get comfortable with not having to fire it, not having to now, or have that command or need to make it go. We're trying to get rid of that, and you're trying to just fire it with the building pressure of your form. So set a little heavier, 3 to 5 pounds maybe. Mine is, you know, when I started probably around there, and then when I eased my way off the weight as I got more proficient with it. Now be careful, because the first one I said expecting results too quick. So definitely master it pretty good with the heavyweight before you begin to ease off and make it a little easier on yourself. If you think you try to go too fast, what happens is those bad habits will creep back in, and then you'll yo-yo, like I mentioned. You'll go up, make some gains, and all it takes is a few times for you to exercise the bad habit again, and all your gains of your good habits you just learned are gone. So it takes so much effort to replace a bad habit with a good habit, but it is so easy to get rid of a good habit and replace it with an old bad habit. So be very careful of those things. Try to avoid it from creeping back in. And if you're lightening it and getting better and then suddenly you notice, oh, I got anxiety, or I'm yanking, or I'm timing it, stop right there. Stop. Maybe stop the practice session, or maybe go back to heavier and build it again until you're not doing it. What you want is to be able to do this all the time correctly. If you regress at any moment back into the bad habit, the mind learns. When you're new at this, the mind learns, and it can't control that. It'll always want to go to the easy way. So don't give yourself the easy way out, and stick with it. All right, third one is trying to time the release. I already touched on that. Like I mentioned, people, they set it maybe light, or they're wanting to make it go when it's in the middle, that kind of thing. Got to get away from that. So I don't know how else to do it, but to say, you can setting it heavy is one way where you got to work at it. The other way is just, it's all up here in the mind. You got to train your mind to not want to do that. You have to be in control of yourself, not all this anxiety, all of that in control of you instead. One of the things I know Dudley kind of talked about was, taking the sight off the bow, learning how to build pressure on it and being cool with that. That's definitely very beginner, very basic, I feel. As you put the sight on and the pins, and you line up everything on a dot or on a target, I think that pin moving around and you building pressure on it, it can create anxiety. Like you want to time it when it's in the middle, and that can be a problem, especially if you're aiming at a very small target. So what I would say is, in those instances, once you know how to do all this mechanics, I wouldn't worry about taking the sight off or anything like that, because what's really, maybe I feel, for the majority of people, when they're all good already and then they put on the sights and then they kind of regress into the bad habit, I think it's more just a pin moving around. That sight, seeing the sight makes them gives them anxiety, makes them want to time it. So what I would say in that case is maybe make a big target there, put it close so your pin can't leave it, and as long as you're in it, you're just gonna work, execute, keep building pressure until it fires. Don't care where it goes. Do that a lot, and then you can slowly shrink the target, or maybe step the target back a little bit over time. Do this super slow, like I said, back to the first one. So people expect quick results. Can't expect that. Make sure you master it. If any time you start progressing and you regress into the bad habit, you better catch yourself, stop, and kind of go back and start all over again. Don't let that bad habit and all your gains of learning the good habit just disappear with the wind on just a couple times of exercising the old bad habit. All right. Fourth one is poor maintenance. These are mechanical release aid devices. In Hawaii, we got the ocean, we got a lot of moisture, very humid air. I've made these things freeze up. I've hunted on Lanai, got the ocean breeze and everything for a week, and halfway through the week, the thing starts freezing up, corrosion, all this stuff, and it don't want to fire correctly, and there's inconsistency on it. Now, don't confuse that inconsistency with maybe you being inconsistent and it not wanting to go off, because a lot of people, if you got no environmental factors messing it up mechanically, it's really something wrong with you, nothing wrong with the release. But there are instances where the corrosion and stuff will get in, so definitely, I think Dudley has a video of how to shoot oil in it and take care of that. If you're a little more mechanically inclined, maybe you can take it apart and, grease your parts, make sure you protect it from corrosion and those things. But it's very advanced. I don't want to encourage people to start tearing these apart, because you got your warranties and things to take care of. But that is one of the factors, is poor maintenance. I've kind of fixed a few of folks' ones that had a bit of corrosion inside of it, and then also just maybe it was just machining or in the manufacturing process, there were chips and loose tool parts in there, so that kind of made it a little sticky, but it's one of the factors. All right, this next one is kind of a big one, and it's firing with hand pressure instead of form build-up pressure. So what I mean by that is, this is quite indicative of someone who struggles to draw the bow. Sometimes you'll see them when they go to pull back, they'll have to pull down here or something, and then come up. They're really pulling with their forearms, and their forearms are really tight when they go to anchor. This is pretty common for beginners, especially when the draw weight is too high and they really didn't learn how to use their back muscles, the bigger back muscles to draw the bow. But anyway, what is real good indicator that someone is shooting it with hand pressure and not back tension or build a form pressure is this. I'll try to demonstrate real quick. So they're in anchor, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it with my hand, build pressure with my hand and my forearm, very tight forearm. So you see there's very little follow through motion. I'll demonstrate one more time. I'm just going to pull with my hand. So there's not a whole lot of pull through. Now I'm going to pull with my back muscles, like a building of form. Okay, so I'm going to build, 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 build. And you get a bigger pull away. And that's because you're actually, thinking about driving your elbow back, relaxing the forearm a little bit, not gripping it to fire it, but rather pulling with your back to fire it so it will follow through. You can learn the mental mechanics of how to shoot a shot without anxiety, still like kind of making a fist or building with your hand. But what's going to happen is it's not the common way to build pressure in your form. So the common way to build pressure in your form is kind of, if you drew the bow back correctly, which that can be a whole nother video, and search online for stuff like that too, to use other resources, don't just look at mine. But what I would say the way to build pressure would be, as you're at anchor, is to use the same muscles that you use to draw the bow correctly, and just continue to draw the bow while you leave the pin in the middle, and it'll follow through. I'll demonstrate one more time, because this is really subtle, but it is key that someone is not really performing back tension. They're more using their hand or their forearm. So this is the hand or forearm. I'm just going to build with my hand. You see my hand getting white? Very little follow through, right? Versus pulling with my back muscles. And I'm not like faking it, like trying to pull it more. That's just what it will be. You will see certain muscles relax, certain muscles tension. And someone a little more advanced will be able to spot this, but you might want to film yourself. Use your cell phone or something like that to capture these things. So the last one is not turning muscles off. This is probably a more advanced idea. And for someone who's a beginner, you draw the bow, you got all these muscles working and everything, and you're kind of freaking out trying to hold it still. Maybe you're stiff arming the front, pushing forward, or kind of scrunching up to hold it steady. And there's a lot of things going on for beginners. This is a really advanced and very hard thing to explain, but at its highest level, I feel, and this is true for my shot, might be different for you, but true for mine, is as I started learning how to shoot this and get the right form, I begin to learn how to hold the bow steadier while I build pressure. And this is, a common question of, well, how do you hold the pin steadier? How do you get the bow steadier? I'm not, holding it with the bow arm steadier. What you're holding is literally you're holding form and pressure against the bow. And when you get the right alignment of that, it will stay steadier. And when you begin to figure out how to turn off the muscles that you don't need to hold the bow back, all those extra muscles that might be influencing you this way, up and down, all these things, those are the extra muscles. The only ones that you need are the ones that go hold it back, right? So as you get more proficient in this like muscle memory, so to speak, of holding the bow back, you learn how to turn muscles off. And the more muscles you can turn off and only use the ones you need to execute the shot as you're holding the pin there, your steadiness or your float, your pin float, your natural movement of the pin will shrink over time as you learn how to turn more muscles off. So it's very advanced. It takes a lot of time to learn this. This will be years for most people, but the Silverback teaches this, because as you're at full draw, so to speak, and you let off, and you're teaching yourself how to hold steady, and then you pull, and fire, what you'll find is the more you try to control the front, to control the pin, the worse your hold will get. And sometimes you'll probably freeze up mentally from building pressure, because you're not focusing on building pressure now. Now you're focusing on trying to hold steady, bow arm steady. So it's not telling you what to do, but just by default, by you playing with it long enough, you'll begin to learn this to do it proficiently. And if you do it wrong, it's definitely going to tell you you're doing it wrong, because your groups aren't going to be so great, but you're going to know because the release just doesn't fire efficiently. It's going to be hard to build pressure. This is getting deep in psychology, but the conscious mind can only think of one thing at a time. Some people think they can multitask and do these things. It's a lot of psychologists studies it's not true. You can only consciously think of one thing at a time. So if you're reading, you can only read. If you're trying to tie a knot and looking at the fishing line, you can only do that. You can't think about how to bake a cake or what you're eating for dinner. But what can do a lot of things is the subconscious part of your mind. That's breathing. I'm not thinking about breathing while I'm talking to you, right? But subconsciously is doing it. So what turning off muscles is pretty much for a beginner, it will be a conscious thing because they're trying to figure it out. Okay, relax this. Oh, I can hold steady. Oh, wow, look, but then I still got to build pressure. So I got to turn this on, my back muscles, all those things. That's very conscious. But over time, you can put those things into the subconscious and it'll be more of a feel thing, like breathing. So as you're at full jaw, your mind can kind of relax, and you can relax the shoulders and relax the body, and yet still keep the muscles you need to hold the bow back, not let it collapse forward, which is a lot of beginner problems. But as you learn how to turn off those right muscles, yet still keep the ones you need to fire the bow, you'll get steadier and steadier, and you're going to get better and better. That's just how it works for me. Might be different for you. Again, I'm always going to say that, everybody's experience may vary, but that's my experience. Hopefully it's useful for you guys. I'm definitely going to want to do these more into the future. I have a little bit of a bout with oral cancer, so I couldn't talk for a few days here. So I'm back. I'm still going to try to get some videos on local game management stuff, just because that's something I kind of feel really strongly about. Hunting is going to disappear in Hawaii if we don't figure this problem out. A lot of people don't even know about it, but it's affecting hunting lands here. But this is the Archery Talk videos. I have a whole playlist now. I've kind of tried to organize my channel. So this is Archery Talk videos. You can find that playlist, find all those things. Don't have a whole lot there, but I'll build them over time. And if you guys want to hear about anything that maybe I could help out, or something that you see me do or want to explain, put it in the comments or send a message or an email, whatever. So thanks a lot. That's the video. Hopefully it helps the guys that asked me about it. That is the Silverback tension release. A little more advanced. 6 things that I see beginners do, 6 mistakes. So aloha guys, catch you in the next one.